right, guys, in this episode, we are going to be talking about which flask is the best flask to use for each of the three classes that use flasks. And for those of you who don't know what those are, that is the occultist, the witch doctor, and the alchemist. Each one of them is going to have a little bit of a different style on playing with them, and so I have all the best flasks here. The only one that someone might say, should be noted is the cursed flask, which reduces enemies, which in certain circumstances, like if you're doing a clan war, someone might be able to make an argument that let's say a witch doctor or someone that it doesn't really matter how much damage they do could end up, that could be the best flask for them, to have a cursed flask, because you could theoretically reduce the damage of 8-12 people. Other than that, really these four flasks are the main flasks that we're going to be talking about. So the cursed flask, I grant you, will be better in a 12v12 in certain circumstances where you're just using that person as a healer or something like that, or to res people. But most of the time, it's going to be these four flasks. So I have a pro on here with me, Toast and Stuff. You there?
How's it going?
Awesome. So let's go through the three classes that use flasks, and which flask you think is the best. Do you use any flask classes at all?
No, but I fight them all the time, and I'm in voice chat, and we talk about these things all the time. And honestly, my personal opinion, doesn't matter the class, Thor Flask.
Okay, so all three of them, you would say the Thor Flask.
Yeah, it's broken.
Okay, so before we get into the Thor Flask, let's first talk about the Cert's Flask. This deals 15% additional damage if the enemy is less than 30% health. That's a crappy skill. Ignite does extra true damage. That's nice. And then, but its damage over time is a max of 64. The benefit of the Kyrgyz Flask, why the Kyrgyz Flask has been kind of king until the Legendary Flask came out, is one, you'll notice the damage on the Cert's Flask is 19. The Kyrgyz Flask is 24, which is really important for the occultist because you get that explosion based on that damage. You still got that 64 damage per second max, but it also slows them by 40% every time, which a flask user, it's really nice to have a slow because you have such short range. So the Kyrgyz Flask before the legendaries came out was unbelievable. And still is a great flask, but Toast and Stuff just mentioned the Thor's Flask. You'll notice that the damage per second is less. It's 48 versus 64. But this flask strikes an enemy nearby targets with lightning. The lightning does 2 to 8 damage. So why is this flask so powerful?
Purely attack speed. I can 4-stack on you with one hammer.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the attack speed's almost double of the other flasks.
Yeah, at that point, damage doesn't matter because you're getting your stacks just immediately, and then you can either blow up or they're already taking max stack damage.
Ah, okay. Okay, I see it. I see why that's so powerful, because you're putting you'll be able to max stack them, and anytime you max stack someone, you're gonna win unless they dispel. And so,
or armor pot.
What does armor pot mean?
You can armor pot an explosion from the occultist.
Oh, I see. So they can armor pot if they're getting a bunch of stacks. That makes sense because armor reduces the flask.
Even then, you'll still be left very low HP.
Yeah, because there's so much damage per second. I mean, 48 damage per second without doing anything is unbelievable. 64 is crazy. I mean, that's like some of the best weapons in the game. And you're also applying your own damage on top of that. So, okay, I see that, but the the new Freya's flask is kind of in between on the attack speed, but you would say it just doesn't compete.
Oh, not even close. It's purely just the attack speed. We've talked about it quite a lot. To where yeah, you're doing quite a lot. You know, you're doing a decent amount more damage when they're over half health. But you're gonna snap before they get to half health anyway. With the cultists, you normally. I mean,
Got it. Okay.
and it's just the rate that you can stack up on somebody is it's crazy.
It's just too powerful. Okay.
It's
So
the new one is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad weapon. I'm
Yeah,
just saying compared.
yeah, comparatively, even though it's got a slightly higher DPS, um, it's slightly slower and putting those stacks up, which makes it to where it's just not it's not as good of a
Especially
weapon.
if you think in regards of team PvP. Let's say it's a 4v4 and I hammer someone.
Mhm.
You simply can't get more than 2 stacks with the Freya flask because you're going to get hammered back and melted. You can't be up front with a flask because it's shorter range. You know, it's not like super
Uh-huh.
long range.
I see what you're saying.
Whereas with a Thor flask, you can get 2, 3, and then run. You know, you're getting easily more stacks. You know.
So the Thor's flask is 1.67, whereas the Freya's is a 1.25. I mean, that's a big difference.
It doesn't seem like a lot on numbers, but it really is in a fight.
It really makes a difference in fight. Okay. Well, that's great. So just so that everyone kind of knows the difference between the three classes, the Witch Doctor is kind of the healer. It's got a little bit of a tanky armor. You've got the ability to resurrect other people. You've got healing, and then you also have some damage absorption abilities. And so you would say that, I mean, all of the flasks are pretty attack based. So unless we're dealing 12v12, and maybe you'd want to use a curse flask to reduce everyone's attack by 15%.
At
12.
that point, I wouldn't use a flask at all.
You wouldn't. Well, but I'm talking about the aura of using a curse flask and reducing a whole clan
We wouldn't use
as
it
a
at
witch
all.
doctor. You wouldn't even use it.
No, not even.
What would
We
you
wouldn't even
use?
think about it. Well, we did the one video with 9v9,
Yeah.
and we found the best way to do it is you need long range. You need protectors to go in for taunts and long range. That's it.
Got it.
Anything
So,
anything when there's that many people, you know, in a normal battle 4v4, there's kind of like a line crossed. You know, if you go up too far, you're gonna get melted. But with that many people, if you cross that line, it's instant death.
got it. So having a witch doctor with a curse flask that is just trying to reduce all of the other people with his aura is just not going to work out.
You wouldn't get close enough.
Got it. If you got close enough, you would die, and therefore,
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's good to know. So the witch doctor, you would say, even though you're a healer, you're just the Thor flask is king. The alchemist has some extra range and some extra speed, and can slow the enemy, which is
That is probably the only class I couldn't give opinion on. Nobody runs it. We've talked theory about it, but in actual gameplay, I know nothing.
got it. So the experience isn't there, and part of that is it kind of sucks. They said they were gonna
Never fought one.
They were gonna buff it by making its long range an insta cast, but it didn't actually work. Like I don't know what the developer that was in charge of that change. They announced that they made the change, and then nothing was actually changed with that class. And then the occultist, is the occultist still played a lot?
It's one of currently the top classes in zones played.
Okay, see, I thought that like it was the top. They never changed it, and then I just stopped running into them, so I didn't know what happened, why I stopped seeing them.
The problem is because of the nerf, armor's less now when you pop your ghost form. Me as a sharpshooter or a duelist, any high damage class now knows if you pop your ghost form, I don't care. I'm just gonna keep damaging through it. Whereas before you could, you were forced to back up. Nowadays,
so they did nerf it.
Most occultists you see will be dragon set, magician set, boss helmet, Thor flag, just fully geared out.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So I see that. So they nerfed it, which is why I don't see it as much, but it's still powerful.
Right. Like for example, with Kirga, it's still good to go out as because of the slowing effect. Cert bottles are basically only for farming.
Got it. Cert bottles are for farming, which is now. Sorry, real quick. I'm gonna look at the Kirga has 24 damage total, and so the Thor Flask even has a better normal damage, and so for the occultist, which is all about that main damage, the Thor Flask is still going to be the best weapon for it.
Another thing about the attack speed is that the base damage is hitting so much more often too. You know, it's maybe only 20-15 damage, but it's 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, you know, it just keeps going.
Yeah, on top of the 48 damage per second, you're getting 41 DPS, whereas on top of the 64 of a Kirga, you're only getting 24 DPS. So really, if I add these two together, that's 88, and if I add these two together, it's 80. It's 90. So
the thing people don't realize too is the way it's set up right now. These classes, Flasks specifically, if I damage soup before, if I berserk pot, if I have dragon, all that stuff affects your damage now. Simply, if I berserk pot before stacking on you, my stacks now do more damage.
Okay, so I was just looking at the DPS to the versus the damage per second, and it's interesting. The Freya's Flask is only 83, whereas the Thor's Flask is 90. If you include the damage over time, max damage over time, plus the DPS, the Thor's is way more. And then if you include the 15% for half of it, so let's say 7%, it's still not going to add up as much. So the Thor's Flask, if you include its DPS times its damage over time, the Thor's Flask is just way better.
So we talked a little bit about this, and my theory is basically you can't, every single weapon that they come out in each set, like, you know, the Freya set, the Thor set, the Dragon set, not every weapon can be an A-class weapon, right?
Totally.
For example, I know it has, you know, its specific uses in specific places, but the Dragon Dagger, nobody uses that in PvP. It's just, in that set, it's the bad weapon.
Yeah, totally. Which is good, that they're having some PvE weapons, really, because the Dragon Dagger is a great PvE weapon.
Exactly, it's very, very good for it. It's just, there's currently, we're looking at these Freya weapons. Some of them are hands down best in slot weapons in the game. Yeah,
like
for example, the shield and the combat staff,
totally,
and the support staff for its ability. Hands down best in game.
Yeah.
So you can't have every single one of them be the best, you know.
Totally, it would change the game every time you made it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, any other tips because you're already revealing a lot of tips when you were mentioning the cultist and how the ghost form is not as powerful and that you just kind of fight them through it. Any other tips for fighting or for being one of these things?
At the moment, I would say Alchemist, don't run it. It's until it gets a buff, you're probably just gonna die.
Yeah.
Witch Doctor has its place in Ancient Golem, I don't believe it has a place in PvP currently.
At all?
At all.
Not even in family? Because I feel like people talk about it in family still.
At that point, why wouldn't you just bring a healer?
Okay. Yeah, because the healer's got the new staff.
A new staff now, yeah,
That's
and
a good
your old
point.
team's healing way more now. And I mean, honestly, a lot of the time, families are going away from heals now. They're going towards either 3 DPS or 2 DPS and a shaman.
So
To where
even
they're
with
bringing other.
the new heals, the new heal support staff, they're like, no, they'll just do a shaman and we'll all heal with our bandages.
Oh, no, like shamans can use that staff.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and they'll just heal themselves now.
Got it. Cool.
Well, because a lot of the time you're already used to doing that. Because you lay traps down, you'll have somewhere you can back up to, and if you're getting low, it's kind of individual player's responsibility to back up and heal. As for occultists, there's a lot of people going out there absolutely destroying people. My only suggestion is don't go out fully geared expecting to win. There's a lot of people that know how to counter this class, and it's not unbeatable. No class is unbeatable. I think currently, the way the game is, there's never been a better time to try different classes. There's so many viable classes right here, right now.
They've really truly balanced the game, at least in the sense that everything's viable, or lots of things are viable.
Well, take for example, let's say I go to Red Forest and there's a ruined out assassin in there. I'm gonna go in there protector and taunt reflecting. Let's say I sit in that zone for a while. He's gonna come back occultist or possibly sharp. I might be able to kill a sharp. But hunter, things that I can't kill like that. So I basically just have to zone out. But then you can go back things like duelist and sharp to counter those. It's just there's so many counters right now.
And what was that? What was the first class you mentioned that you were?
Oh, protector.
Protector. So the protector.
Yeah, you see a lot of that in zones right now.
I am seeing a lot of protectors right now, and they're powerful for sure.
Well, the thing is if you're not ruined, he's still extremely tanky. He's hard to kill, very difficult. If you are ruined, the more runes you have, the harder I laugh when I taunt you.
That's
to
great.
The point, these ruined out assassins. I had one come back earlier, and he's sporting a rusty dagger in his quick slot to switch to it.
Interesting.
People running protector have these ruined out people scared now.
Interesting. That is so cool. Okay, well, I have my protector pretty high, so I might need to I'm getting close. Let's see. Well, I still need 16,000 points, but I could work on that. Try to get my protector up. It's been I love the protector.
It's fun. It's entertaining, and it's you've always been able to kind of play it in solo, but right now it's pretty entertaining. It's just like I said though. There's counters. If you run into an occultist or a firebow, you're pretty much just gonna die or you zone out.
Got it. The firebow and the occultist counter the protector. That makes sense. Okay, guys. Well, that was even better than I had hoped. It seems like for the Flask classes, it's pretty clear that the Thor Flask is king. It just wins every way. I thought the numbers looked good for the Cursed Flask, but that's why I got Toasted Stuff on here, because really sometimes the numbers can look good, but then when you actually get into experience, it's like, nope, this is it. The Alchemist is worthless. The Cursed Flask isn't useful in 9v9, so isn't going to be useful in 12v12 either. So we've got the Thor Flask as king. And for if you're the occultist or the witch doctor, and if you're the alchemist, you should rethink your life. All right, guys. See you next time.